What happens when you finally get to buy your Holy Grail gun? That's a question that I figured that I would probably never get the chance to figure out, because Holy Grail guns are one of those things you're never supposed to come across. But it turns out that my Holy Grail gun was a 3-inch barrel stainless steel Colt Python. And I figured that, because I get asked all the time, everybody knows I'm a gun collector. If you'd only have one handgun, you know this question. If you only have one handgun, you have to sell everything else, but you could pick one handgun in the world, and that's the one you get to keep. Which one would it be? And my answer was a 3-inch barrel Colt Python 357 Magnum. Not a 327, you know, if they made a 327 Python, that might be pretty cool, but 357 Magnum Colt Python, 3-inch barrel stainless steel. And that's a gun that's basically didn't exist until a couple years ago. I think there were 1,000 3-inch barrel Pythons, period. I came across a couple of them when I worked for Cabela's. I bought one that had a 3-inch spare barrel that you could have converted into a 3-inch Python, but it wasn't stainless steel. I think if they made any, they only made 250 of these. But now it's a regular production gun. And so I bought one. And of course, it's insanely expensive. You know, this I paid $1,600 for this thing, which is $600 more than I paid for my 6-inch blue Python. And it's the same price I paid for my 6-inch nickel 1969 Python, which is, you know, more of a collector value than a shooter value. But of course, this is, you know, this is like my ultimate shooter gun, ultimate carry gun. So I put 300 rounds through it today. And of course, it's perfect. You know, the trigger's just what you would expect. You know, it's beautiful and shiny, just how you would expect. I'm just kind of, I don't know, dumbfounded at the whole situation. Like, no, now what? You know, I've got a few little complaints about it. Like, I don't like the grips. The grips are Altamont grips, and I think they kind of cheapen the gun a little bit. They have a kind of cheap look to them. Anybody that owns or has handled an original Colt Python knows that the checkering is raised above the surface of the grip and hand cut, and it's very sharp. This is recessed below the surface of the grip. It's laser cut, and it's dull. It's very smooth, so it doesn't grip in your hand very well. And of course, laminated walnut versus rosewood. So, kind of disappointment. And then some other thing I don't like about the grips is silver medallions instead of gold. Pythons always came with gold medallions because it was the top of the line gun. Top of the line Colts always came with gold medallions, like the Gold Cup National Match always had gold medallions. Pythons always had gold medallions. The Colt 357, when the Python didn't exist, always had gold medallions. And then your lesser grade guns, like the Official Police or your standard model 1911, might come with silver medallions because they're the lesser guns. So I know why they did silver medallions on this gun, so it color matches with the stainless. Like, okay, sure, whatever. But it should, I'm being a nitpicky Colt collector here, it should have gold medallions. But besides that, just about perfect. They simplified the lock work, so it's apparently missing 9 parts that the original one has. And you can kind of tell that something's a little different with the action. I want to say that the trigger's a little bit heavier on this than on my 1984 blue one, but it's still really good. It doesn't stack like a Ruger or Smith trigger does. It's very smooth and consistent pull to the end. Single action pull, not that great. You know, it's a 5-pound single action pull, which, you know, 5 pounds isn't bad for a single action revolver trigger, but it's not the 2.5, 3 pounds that my other Python has. But for a gun that, if I ever found one, would have cost $7,000 or $8,000 or $9,000 if I could ever find one. And then I was able to just pick one up off the shelf at Cabela's. Yeah, pretty crazy. I know a lot of people talk about their dream guns or Grail guns that, like, oh, I wish I could have a Glock Model 40 or whatever, or a Beretta 92. But once you get into the more rare collector guns, and those become your Grail guns, stuff that you'll never find, stuff that there's no chance that you're ever going to be able to afford to buy, then it just gets kind of put back in your mind like, yeah, it's so out of reach that you can never possibly have it. And then you get it. And yeah, I'm just still kind of in shock. I've had it for a few weeks, but like, what's next? What do I buy next? Like, I've got the best handgun that I could ever want to buy. So I guess I just have to go enjoy it now. I have to go shoot it a bunch. Put 300 rounds through it today, and it did great. Yeah. Have you guys ever come across this kind of experience where you finally get the thing you've been looking for years and years and years and never thought you'd be able to buy, but then just shows up? I've already ordered custom holsters for it. I ordered Kramer inside the waistband and outside the waistband holsters for it. I'm definitely going to carry this thing. Like, still in shock. Can't even believe it's here. Oh, other small complaint, you know, this complaining Colt collector. So you'll notice that these troughs for the cylinder stop are maybe a little bit longer than your standard Python. That's because with this simplified lock work, they have simplified the timing. So you can look right above the trigger here. That's the cylinder bolt that locks it in place so the cylinder doesn't rotate. And as I pull the hammer back, that bolt is going to drop. So the bolt has dropped. See the gap there between the cylinder and the frame. And now the cylinder is free to rotate. Now in a normal Colt double action revolver, that bolt is going to stay down in the frame until it's a good halfway down this trough. Now that's proper timing on a Colt revolver, is that bolt will drop in the trough about halfway down. But on the new Python, it drops real quick, just as soon as it possibly can. And so it drops right at the top of that trough. So I put 300 rounds and there's hardly any turn line on this. So I'm guessing the steel that you're using for this cylinder is pretty strong and it's not going to show scratches too easily. So after 300 rounds, there's still no turn ring, which is huge improvement over old stainless pythons, which would get a turn ring after one cylinder full. So I'm guessing after many thousands of rounds, you'd eventually get a turn ring that looks kind of ugly through here. But again, tiniest little nitpicking issue. This is still perfect. This is exactly what I want. And yeah, I still don't know what to do with it besides go shoot it. So now that I have this, it's a 3-inch barrel 357 Magnum. So just looking at it that way, now I finally have a fair comparison to 3-inch barrel 327 Magnums like the Ruger SP101 or the Smith 632-1. And I want to do some actual shooting comparisons between these types of guns in the same barrel length, so I can get some maybe more firsthand data on what's the difference between a 357 and this barrel length versus a 327. Because there's a lot you can read online or experience over time, but having them side by side on the same shooting day, you can really get a good feel for the difference between the two guns. So, yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed my rambling for 10 minutes about this beautiful revolver. Just absolutely crazy that I have this gun. Really lucky. Just crazy. Thanks for watching.